What's good, everyone? Welcome to the show, Recap with Mo. For today's show, we're going to talk about the new show for Xscape and SWV. Now, let me go ahead and say this as a disclaimer. I wasn't going to talk about this at all, and but I was watching. My wife and I, we were coming back from out of town, and on the road, she had told me about this new show, so we went ahead and watched episode 1 while we were on the road, and it was pretty good. You know what I'm saying? And it also kept me awake. But anywho, so when we got home, she said, "Yeah, we need to watch it." She said it was about 6 episodes. So I said, "Okay," and then she just pretty much said, "You need to talk about this on your, on your channel." I was like, I don't know, because I really wouldn't know how to spin it, in a male's state of mind, right? Because, it pretty much deals with SWV and Xscape, but as I watched it, I was like, okay, there are some things that we can glean from it and talk about it, because I'm all about all things black, you know what I'm saying? Whatever it may be, what can we pull out of some of these shows to help us think better, think critically about things, and do better as a culture. So let's go ahead and get into it. So I'm not going to talk about episode 1 because I'm a little behind on that, of course. So I'm gonna go ahead and jump into episode 2 of SWV and Xscape's Queen of R&B, episode 2. But before we get into the episode 2, let me just point up some of the points from episode 1. So in episode 1, we see where this pretty much introduces the groups to the world. If you didn't grow up in that time frame like we did, SWV and Xscape, they were pretty much, the premier R&B girls groups during the 90s, from hits that featured Michael Jackson to dealing with So Def and Jermaine Dupri and all of that stuff. So they were pretty big during that era and time when R&B was at its highest, man. So, if you don't know them, go ahead and look them up, but, I think you would be impressed. But anyway, it pretty much introduces the sisters with voices as well as Xscape, and talks a little about where they're from. And then you really see the girls for who they are. You see Xscape. No, let me go back. You see, we see with SWV, there are a lot. You see with SWV, they are like the big sisters over Xscape. They're a lot more mature because they've had a show, I believe, previously where they went through a whole lot of drama at one time. But we see that they are a lot more seasoned. They're traveling. They're getting to the bags, man. So kudos to them. And then on the flip side of it, we see at the very start that the drama is obviously coming from Xscape side of it, and specifically the two sisters that's in the group. I believe their name is Latasha or Tasha and Tamika. So that's pretty much the gist of it, because how you end that episode is with Tasha and Tamika and their mother, I believe, going at it. So when we get into episode 2 opens up with Tamika, Tasha, and their mom going on fussing about a situation that transpired where there was some money that came up missing. Well, Tamika pretty much said, she was angry because her mother knew that Tasha stole her money. But Tasha's like, no, didn't nobody steal that money and all that stuff. But you can see from the anger within Tamika, like her energy, I don't feel personally that Tamika is lying. I just feel personally because you can tell when people are putting on for the camera. But at the same time, in this situation, I do not think Tamika is lying. I also feel like the mother is possibly the biggest part of this whole dysfunction that's going on within this household. Because, growing up, I had, a younger brother with me, and I had an older brother from my dad's previous marriage. But at the same time, we grew up in a household where we were supportive of one another. If something happened to my little brother, we all protected him, vice versa for me, and so on. It was never where our parents would put us against one another. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, he jealous of you, this, and he jealous of this. He did. And you saw that on the camera when the mother was like, oh, she jealous. And that right there, that type of disposition, you know, children read that. Kids are smarter than we know. They see it. They see everything without us really knowing that they see things. And when I became a father, I really saw that firsthand, because the things that I thought I was getting away with by the things I said, the things I was doing, my son would come up later on and he would repeat the same thing that I said that I thought I was saying alone. Anyway, you know, like I said, I do that sometimes on these episodes, man. But let me go ahead and get back to the show. So then we go from there. They have it out. So Tamika's pretty much, she's heated. And the mama is trying to get the cameras up out of the house because she don't want any information being spilled out to the world. But it's a little bit too late, shawty. A little bit too late. Let me go ahead and speak in that and let it dilate. It's a little too late, shawty. It is what it is. It's already out there in that atmosphere. It's already out there. So anyway, so Tamika goes to the car with her daughter, and she's still in that energy. Like I said before, I believe that is true. So who knows? But anyway, so going from there, we see Candy at the candy factory, and they have a meeting. So I believe Tiny shows up, Candy is there, and Tamika shows up as well. And she talks about the whole situation that went down with her mom and Tasha. And they were like, oh, Lord, like, how did it go? And she pretty much said, like, it didn't go too well. And he was like, yeah, y'all gonna have to work that out. And what you could tell from this episode is that Xscape for so many years have had to deal with issues constantly where they were not, really working them out, with solutions. They were pretty much just sweeping them under the rug and going on to the next thing. And oftentimes that dust, when you move that rug, that dust is still there. So you got to deal with that dust, put it in the, in the tray, sweep it up, place it in the trash. But obviously that's not what they've done. But pretty much, she pretty much conveyed to Tiny and Candy, that it's always been like this. She's always had to go back and forth with her mom. It was always a tag team when it came down to them. So I hope they get it together, man. Like the episode say, pray on it. So hopefully it's going to work out on their behalf, right? So, and then let me skip a little bit because there's a lot of fluff in here too. We see the relationships with the girls and their families. So we see Lily and her sister, they're chatting it up and they're fixing food. And you know how we as black folks, we like to get around food and talk and chat, and with laughter and everything in the air. And I love their relationship. And she talks a little bit about how it was when she was growing up and how she had hand-me-downs, and a lot of us had hand-me-downs. Shit, I had hand-me-downs, But she talked about one of the things that she really wanted when she was able to really get herself some money was, to buy herself a bed, because she never had her own. So she got the biggest bed she could find, a king-size bed. And that's what she decided to do. So I'm glad she was able to do that, because everybody needs something. You know what I'm saying? You want to feel like you've accomplished something. And oftentimes growing up, when you do not have, those are automatically the first things that you're going to get, because some of my family would always convey to us, when they were growing up, they would always lack tissue, right? And now when you go over those family members' houses, they have loads and loads of tissue, like they never want to run out. And it's sort of like when you lack things, those are the things that you hold close to heart. So I was glad that she was able to do that for herself. So then we see where Taj and Tamika, they meet up, they're talking, and Tamika pretty much conveys to Taj, about the whole situation that went down with her mother, both her mother and Tasha. And I loved Taj's energy. She was like, you guys need to work that out. And you need to figure out for yourself why you've, been in this predicament so very long. And I loved her energy. It was like a big sister energy. Let's talk about it. You know what I'm saying? Let's get through it and figure out why it is like it is. And hopefully we can get through that, right? So then we go from there. The situation with Tasha and Tamika almost reminds me of the Boys in the Hood. In the Boys in the Hood context, where you had Doughboy and you had Ricky, and their mother, they had two different dads, but at the same time, their mother treated them totally differently. She loved Ricky. Ricky played football. Ricky did no wrong, even though he was the one sometimes that would start the shit. At the same time, the mother would never point her finger at Ricky. It would always be on Doughboy. And even when they got older, when Ricky got killed, when he got shot, she blamed Doughboy for the whole incident, even though he didn't have anything to do with it. He was really trying to protect his brother, and that's the. And that's really what it made me think about as I was watching this show. But anyway, let me get back, man, because we can talk about. I get off on the tangent and start talking about boys in the hood. So then we get to Tiny's house, one of her houses, many houses, right? Because as she says, she got multiple houses. So the girls of Xscape, they're meeting up over at Tiny's house. So Tamika shows up, Kenny shows up, and eventually Tasha shows up. And of course, she already comes in with this negative energy. Like, what's good? Okay, well, I'm gonna sit down. But you know how people be having their little purses, like when they sit their purse down, when that purse come up, they gone. And it was like she already had her purse right beside her because she was already on guard. So pretty much they're supposed to be meeting about, some of the things that they're trying to do for the group. And one of the things that came up was new management. Now, the management is, from what we find out, is a friend of Tasha and her husband, Rocky, right? So I don't understand why Xscape would go into a situation like that where you are dealing with somebody who's a friend of one of the members of your group. That's a bad predicament to be in, right? So it's just hard to deal with that because they're not really going to want to tear away from that situation because they are close friends with those individuals. So Tasha really, she says, I'm gonna pray on it. You know what I'm saying? But everybody's like, no, we need to come up with a solution at this point because we're trying to get this whole tour together. But she really doesn't want to talk about it because she said she's in a space right now where she's talking about, no, nothing is going to be right until we can get things right with my mama. And Tamika is like, what the hell you mean my mama? It's our mama. She was like, well, you knew what I meant. And she was like, no. And I believe that Tasha meant that. Like, my mama, like, you hurt my mama. But let's be 100, all right? The mama is wrong. You cannot have two children, put them against one another, pick sides for who you think is right and who is wrong, and then you leave a voicemail. I forgot about that part of it. You left a voicemail on Tamika's phone talking about if you put a hand on Tasha, I'm gonna come over there and kick your butt. Like, what type? And you're supposed to be a Christian. See, that's the reason why people often have problems with people who are so Christian-like. And I'm not going in on Christians because I consider myself a Christian. I am a Christian. But you have to carry yourself in a certain way that, people can see the humility in you and see that you're not prejudiced against one group or another, definitely within the family. So it's going to be hard for Tamika to really see, like they said with Mary, the God in me, if I'm not acting godly. So she's always protecting Tasha. And at the same time, Tamika is like, what about me? Right? So Tasha gets up, she grabs that purse real quick, Well, as they say in the South, the pocketbook. They get up, get that pocketbook put on the shoulder. She's like, ain't nothing gonna work out. Tina walks outside. Essentially, Tasha tells her, look, until she get it right by my mama and by me, well, pretty much by my mama, then we ain't got nothing to talk about. And I'm going to say no every daggone time. No, no, no. But what we later find out is there's a reason why she's saying no. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, so from there, nothing gets solved, of course. So then we go to everybody's going back home. So they were all in Atlanta at one time. And now Taj is going home. We see everybody's going home. So Taj lives in Nashville, where I actually live myself. And I met Taj and Eddie George. They pretty cool, man. Very nice couple. I met them at an event. Very nice. Very down to earth. And actually she taught at the school where I went to, Belmont University. So that was pretty cool it was pretty cool to meet them both. But I love the relationship that she has with Eddie George and her son, Eric, I believe that's his name. And you can tell that she's a homebody. And I actually believe what she said when she said, when I get home, when I come through that front door, Xscape is outside. And that's what you have to do, even in normal life. You got to leave that BS at the door. Like when you come in, your kids don't want to hear the troubles that you've had to work on, the people you've had to deal with. Your spouses don't want to hear that. Your husband or your wife don't want to hear everything that went outside these doors. We want you to come in, and we want you to be who you are. And then when that time goes down, we can talk about it. What happened? What can we do to make it better? And I love that she said that, and you can see that she got a relationship with her family, and she's the only woman in the house. So, she gonna get that love when she come home. So, so yeah, man. So, and then we see Coco. I believe that's her name. She lives in Virginia with her mom, and you see her son. He's actually a singer, I believe, and then she has another one who's a rapper of some sort. An emo rapper, I think that's what she said. And so you got to see the relationships within their families, in their structure, within the house. And Coco conveyed pretty much that her mom being very religious in her background was pretty much, she worked with Luther Vandross back in the day, and she's currently working on a situation where she's going into the studio with a choir. But she said that she pretty much had to lie to her mom about singing, with SWV, that it was a Christian group instead of an R&B, a rhythm and blues group. And she said when, signing time came, she pretty much had to come out and say what it was. But, and her mom pretty much accepted her after she bought her a brand new car. So I guess that's all, that's all it took was that money to be spent, and she let it go on by. Let it walk on by, like Dionne Warwick said, walk on by. So yeah, but I can see that. I can see SWV. I can see SWV being a Christian group. Sisters with Voices. It sounds like a Christian group, but I would believe that too. But anyway. So then next we see Candy at the studio. She's in there working on the track, I believe. There's another guy in there, I forget his name. He's in there. I guess he's like the sound engineer, and he's working on the track. And her husband, Todd, comes in as well. So they're talking about, what went down with the meeting, how's your group doing? She was like, what group? And then he said, well, I only know you to be in one group, like, ain't that the only group you in? And she started laughing. But pretty much, they talked a little bit about what went down, what has transpired, and pretty much what Tasha is not doing. Pretty much nothing. But so going from there, and I like the way that they, put these scenes together. So they had Candy in the studio talking it out, and then you have Tasha who has a meeting of some sort, or I can't remember. I think they were celebrating an anniversary as well earlier in the episode for 27 years or something like that. And they talked about this whole situation about coming to Nashville to meet up with Motown Gospel. And I didn't even know there was a Motown Gospel here. So, I mean, I didn't know. So maybe I need to roll down. I need to roll down there and see what I can do. But anyway, I'm just joking, man. But so we get to the point here where they are celebrating 27 years, and then they're talking about what their goals are. So to fast forward a little bit, Tasha, she and her husband, they head to Nashville. They're at this meeting, and at the meeting, they're pretty excited, and they're telling her all the plans that they have potentially for her coming to Motown Gospel. And while she's there, they ask her how she's going to be able to juggle both, how she's going to be able to deal with being on the road with Xscape, as well as working on her own, individual solo deal. And she was like, well, I haven't figured that out yet. And then and the guy asked, well, do they know about the situation? And she was like, no, they don't. So they pretty much looked at her like, I mean, why not? Are y'all not in good standing? And then, see, this is what I'm talking about with Negroes that you cannot trust. Her husband is like, oh, I didn't know, they didn't know. Negro, I'm going to keep it very nice on this video. That man knew that they did not know. See, right there, already I can see that you that type of dude that's not trustworthy, because you're lying. You knew that they did not know. Because your wife tells you everything. I can already tell she tells you everything. You knew that they didn't know. You knew that they are going through a bad patch in their relationships right now. You know that they didn't know. But he throws her under the bus like, oh, I didn't know. So it's like she's out there by herself, and this is the person she's listening to. But anyway, and then this is something that I did not like. And I'm going to end it on this note because there's so much more I can go into. Well, I won't end it on this note. Probably two more things. So when they were going through this whole meeting, and they were asking the questions why and all of this stuff, and she was like, well, I have to protect myself. I have to protect my vision. And the guy that was there at the meeting, I forget his name, and he was like, it's of God. And I stood there for a moment just thinking about what he just said. Let me just say this, everyone. Confusion, deceit is not of God. I'm going to just go ahead and stand out here flat-footed and say that. What Tasha is doing right now, what her husband is doing right now, not being straightforward with the group when they're trying to put together this whole little show with the additional 3 girls from SWV, and you'll sit up here talking about, I'm trying to protect my vision. People can expect different if you just be straightforward with people and tell them what you're feeling, what you're trying to do. But when you come sideways, and you start talking about and we see this on the next episode coming up, where Tasha conveys to him, I had a meeting about a record deal for a new record deal. And they like, what the hell? Like, that's not of God. God, the Bible says God is not a God of confusion. So people need to stop putting that on the Lord, man. People need to stop putting that on the Lord. Now, just say what you really wanted to do. No, I didn't want to deal with them. I really wanted to look out for myself. I can accept that a lot better than you talking about I'm trying to protect my vision. Man, get the heck out of here, man. That's ridiculous. So that being said, and then the thing that came up, a lot of people, when I was reading, a lot of people were talking about how did Tasha steal Tamika's money. So there's a thing called, I forget what it's called. It's through the union. It's some type of sound something. And they came out some years ago in the 2000s sometimes. And I remember hearing about it because I'm a member of Xscape myself, with songwriters and producers and things like that. Now, I'm not big by any means, but I know how, the music industry works to a certain degree. And it's set up to assist people or musicians who have their music played through radio. So for the longest time, the people that were getting paid for the streams and things on the radio, the plays on the radio, were the writers and the producers. But this union effort was to help compensate for the people who sing the song, who perform the song, and they would also receive and reap the benefits of their songs, their voices being heard on the radio as well. So with Xscape, they would receive these. You had to actually sign up for it. So obviously they signed up for it, and they went back for, years and years to be able to get, those royalties for the members of Xscape or whoever signs up. So I believe that I have to go back and look, but you place an address into the system. So that's where the checks and everything go. So I'm assuming that when Tamika's checks were, her account was being set up, someone obviously placed it into the address, or in some form or fashion, the address of her sister Tasha, or it went to her mama's address. One of the two, because I believe her mom knows more than what she's saying as well. But that's probably more than likely what transpired, and all they had to do was sign it over and deposit the check. Because it's something new. It was something new, and it's not like when ASCAP or BMI or CSAC or anything like that, they can send it directly in another way. But these are actually in the form of a check. Now, they may have possibly been able to change those things, but who knows? But that's what it is, and that's what I'm really believing transpired, because a lot of people are like, how the hell she get her check and was able to deposit a check? Well, more than likely, that's how that was able to be done. All right? So anyway, I'm going to leave you all on that note. I'm going to just say this. Like, subscribe to the channel. I hope that you've enjoyed this content. Come back. I'm going to do a lot more of these. And I'm getting ready for Power Book 2. So if you like Power Book 2 and we talk about Tariq, we get ready to get into that. So until then, we'll talk later. Peace out.